The taxi ride home felt like stepping out of a burning building. Not dramatic, not cinematic, just clean air. I stared out the window while the city blurred past, and for the first time in months, my mind wasn't arguing with itself. No, maybe I'm overreacting. No, maybe it was harmless. No rehearsing conversations I'd never win. Daniel had done it in public, loud, proud, in front of thousands. That wasn't a mistake. That was a reveal. When I got to the apartment a little after 10, I didn't hesitate. I stepped inside, closed the door, and turned the deadbolt with a slow, final click that sounded like a decision being sealed. My apartment. My name on the lease. My furniture. My peace. I walked straight into the bedroom and pulled his suitcase from the closet. The expensive one he loved posting pictures with, like luggage made him look important. I didn't throw his things. I didn't rip anything. I didn't do the messy version of rage that gets you called crazy later. I did the version that can't be argued with. I packed everything. Shirts, shoes, cologne, the watch he always adjusted when he was nervous, his bathroom products, his chargers, that stupid hoodie he borrowed and never gave back. I moved through the apartment like a professional. By midnight, it was like he'd never lived there, just a row of suitcases lined up by the front door. Then I sat on the couch, turned on the TV, and waited. Because I knew exactly how this would go. Around 2:30 a.m., I heard laughter outside, stumbling, keys scraping against metal, the familiar rhythm of Daniel coming home like the world owed him a warm bed and forgiveness. The key turned, then stopped. The deadbolt. Confusion. Then the banging started. "Rose, what the hell?" Daniel shouted, like the door had betrayed him personally. "It's stuck." I didn't move. I opened the doorbell camera app and watched them. Daniel stood there with smeared eyeliner from sweat and excitement, his hair messy, his face still glowing with that concert high. Lena leaned against the wall, arms folded, smirking like this was all part of the show. Daniel tried the lock again, harder. "Rose, open up!" Lena said something to him, probably a suggestion that made her feel powerful, because suddenly she stepped forward and tried to shoulder the door like she was some kind of hero. She bounced off it like an idiot. It was almost funny. Finally, Daniel called my phone. I answered on the second ring, calm enough that my own voice surprised me. "What?" I said. "Rose," he snapped, "what is wrong with the door?" "Nothing's wrong with it," I said. "It's locked." A beat of silence. "Well, unlock it." "No." Another beat. "What do you mean, no?" His voice rose instantly, as if volume could rewrite reality. "Stop acting like this. Open the door." "You don't live here anymore, Daniel," I said, like I was stating the weather. "Your bags are packed. You can go live with Lena. You said she's way better." I heard Lena in the background laughing under her breath. Daniel's tone flipped, fast. Anger to disbelief to panic. "You're breaking up with me over a joke?" "A joke?" I repeated softly. I stared at the black screen of my phone like it was a mirror. "You lied to my face," I said. "You brought her. You humiliated me. And you did it like it was entertainment." He started talking over me. "Rose, come on, you're being—" "We're done," I said. And it wasn't a threat. It was a conclusion. I could hear Lena muttering something, like she couldn't believe I was actually doing it. Daniel's voice cracked. "Rose, please, you can't just—" I cut him off. "Tell Lena to take it easy on my door," I called out, raising my voice just enough that both of them could hear through the phone. "If she sprains something, she'll have trouble carrying your bags." Then I hung up. Blocked him. Blocked Lena. And sat back down on the couch. The banging continued for a while. Daniel yelling. Lena trying to sound tough. Daniel pleading. Then rage again. But eventually, it stopped. I watched them walk away on the camera. Daniel kept turning his head like he expected me to change my mind, to run after him, to act like I needed him. I didn't, and the quiet that followed was so pure it almost felt holy. The next morning, I dragged the suitcases into the hallway outside my apartment door. Not out of cruelty, out of clarity. Then I used an anonymous texting app to send one message to Daniel's number, before blocking it again. "Your things are in the hall." After that, I went to the studio. My fitness studio smelled like rubber mats and eucalyptus cleaner and effort. It smelled like the life I built with my own hands. I didn't tell anyone what happened, not yet. I just put on my gloves, adjusted the music, and started training a client like my world hadn't cracked open. Because I knew something Daniel didn't. The humiliation at the concert? That wasn't the end. That was the opening scene. By Monday, the story had already been rewritten. Not by me. By them. By Monday morning, I wasn't Rose Campbell anymore. I was a villain. According to Daniel, I was controlling, jealous, insecure. The girlfriend who couldn't take a joke. The woman who abandoned him at a concert and then kicked him out of his own home in a rage. That last part almost made me laugh. My home, my lease, my furniture. But the truth doesn't spread as fast as emotion does. The messages started coming in before I even finished my first client session. Some cautious, some accusatory, some dripping with that fake concern people use when they've already picked a side. Hey, just checking in. Daniel's really upset. Did something happen at the concert? He says you overreacted. You didn't have to humiliate him like that. Humiliate him. I stared at my phone for a long moment, then turned it face down on the counter. I didn't defend myself publicly. I didn't post. I didn't subtweet. I didn't send paragraphs trying to explain my dignity to people who hadn't bothered to ask for it. The friends who mattered called, not to accuse, to understand. I told them the truth, calmly, cleanly, without theatrics. Most of them went quiet after. They didn't need convincing. They needed confirmation of what they'd already suspected. The others I let go. If someone was willing to believe I was unhinged because I refused to be disrespected publicly, they were never really on my side to begin with. Lena, of course, enjoyed every second. She didn't post directly about me. She was smarter than that. She liked plausible innocence, liked being the reasonable one. Instead, she commented heart emojis under Daniel's sad boy stories, showed up to gatherings with him, hand on his arm, head tilted just enough to look supportive, not guilty. She wanted people to think I was replaced. She wanted me to react. I didn't. That's when she started pushing. A mutual friend texted me midweek. Hey, this might be weird, but Lena's telling people you threatened her. I blinked at the screen. Threatened her. I typed one sentence back. I haven't spoken to her since the concert. No follow-up, no explanation. Silence is terrifying when someone is trying to control the narrative. By Friday, I felt it in my bones. They weren't done. Daniel couldn't stand that I disappeared from his emotional reach. Lena couldn't stand that she hadn't won in a visible way. They needed a confrontation. They needed a reaction. And like clockwork, they found me. Saturday afternoon. The parking garage beneath my building smelled like oil and concrete and stale air. I was unloading new equipment from my truck. Kettlebells, weight plates, the kind of heavy things that remind you exactly what your body is capable of. That's when a car pulled in behind me. Too close. Too intentional. I didn't turn around right away. I already knew. The doors slammed. Footsteps. Rose, Daniel called. I sighed and kept lifting. I just want to talk, he said, his voice already cracking. I turned slowly. He looked wrecked. Dark circles under his eyes. That familiar mix of regret and entitlement on his face, like he wanted forgiveness without accountability. Lena stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes sharp. Not sorry. Assessing. No, I said simply. You don't. Daniel stepped forward. Please, just 5 minutes. Lena laughed under her breath. Oh, come on, she said. Don't act like a saint now. You made a scene. You owe him an apology. That's when I felt it shift. The air, the tone. I stepped past Daniel, intent on loading the last plate. Lena moved into my path. You think you can just walk away? She snapped. You embarrassed him. I stopped. Move, I said. She didn't. Instead, she stepped closer, too close, trying to use her height, her presence, her audacity to intimidate me. You're not going anywhere, she said. Then she put her hand on my shoulder. That was the line. I reacted without thinking. Muscle memory, training, instinct. One sharp movement. A clean, controlled strike. Not wild, not angry. Effective. Lena went down hard, her body hitting the concrete with a sound that sucked the air out of the garage. Daniel screamed her name. I stepped back, heart steady, breath even. Don't touch me, I said calmly. Daniel looked at Lena, then at me. For the first time since the concert, I saw fear. I pointed up toward the ceiling. There are cameras in here, I said. She put her hands on me first. If you call the police, I'll happily wait. Daniel froze. Lena groaned on the ground, clutching her jaw, reality crashing in all at once. Daniel helped her up, shaking, muttering apologies that weren't for me. They got in the car, and they left. I stood alone in the garage, surrounded by concrete and silence, and the echo of something finally ending. By that night, the story had changed again. But this time, they didn't control it. The punch didn't make me feel powerful. That surprised me. I thought there'd be a rush, adrenaline, satisfaction, some cinematic sense of justice served. But as I drove out of the garage, all I felt was finality. Not victory. Closure. By that evening, the story had already mutated again. It always does when truth and ego collide. This time, Daniel and Lena didn't call me aggressive. They couldn't. Too many people knew Lena had put her hands on me first. Too many buildings had cameras. Too many witnesses existed in the form of concrete, footage, and timing. So instead, the narrative softened. It was a misunderstanding. Emotions were high. Things got out of hand. Funny how accountability always arrives wearing neutral language. Daniel didn't text me directly. He'd learned that lesson. Instead, the messages came through intermediaries. Friends I hadn't heard from in years. People who suddenly just wanted peace. "She's really shaken, Rose." He didn't mean for it to escalate. "Can't you all just sit down and talk?" I blocked numbers as they came, because talking was the currency Daniel used when he wanted control back. And I wasn't buying. A week passed. Then 2. The smear campaign fizzled without fuel. Drama needs an audience. Without my reactions, without my explanations, without my emotional labor, it starved. People started noticing things they'd ignored before. How Daniel never quite took responsibility for anything. How Lena always stood a little too close. How their version of events kept changing depending on who was listening. Then the apologies started. Not real ones, performative ones. Daniel emailed me from a new address. Long paragraphs, big feelings, selective memory. He blamed alcohol, stress, miscommunication, claimed Lena had crossed boundaries after the fact, like that absolved him. I didn't reply. Then came the final attempt. He showed up at my studio. Middle of the afternoon, busy, loud, full of people who knew me. Clients, trainers, women who trusted me with their bodies and their stories. He walked in looking smaller than I remembered. "Rose," he said softly. I told my client to take a water break and stepped outside with him. "You can't be here," I said. His eyes filled instantly, right on cue. "I made the biggest mistake of my life," he said. "I know that now." "Good," I replied. "Then you understand why this conversation ends here." "But I love you," he said quickly. I cut Lena off, completely. "I swear, I'll do anything." I turned back toward the door. "Rose, wait," he said, grabbing my arm. I stopped. Not because I wanted to hear him, because I wanted to see if he'd finally learned. He inhaled like he was about to say something brave. Instead, he said something revealing. "There's just one thing," he began. "If we're going to move forward, you need to apologize to Lena." I stared at him. "I mean," he rushed on, "you really hurt her. She was just defending me. If you tell her you're sorry, we can put this behind us." I didn't speak for a full 10 seconds. I genuinely thought my brain had glitched. The audacity wasn't loud. It was quiet, refined, almost impressive. Then I laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a sarcastic one. A deep, uncontrollable laugh that bent me forward and made me brace against the wall. Daniel looked confused, offended. "What's so funny?" he asked. I wiped a tear from my eye. "You," I said. "You still think you're the prize." I straightened and looked at him with absolute clarity. "Get out of my studio. Don't come back. And no, I will not apologize to the woman who helped you humiliate me and then put her hands on me." I opened the door, locked it behind me, and for the first time I felt something close to joy. 6 months passed. Not quietly for everyone, just for me. The first thing that disappeared was the noise. No messages, no surprise appearances, no secondhand drama delivered by well-meaning friends. The restraining order language alone had been enough to finally get through to Daniel what my silence meant. I wasn't playing hard to get. I was gone. From what little I heard, because you always hear something, Daniel and Lena tried to make a real relationship work. They told people it was inevitable, that they'd always had a connection. But the truth came out fast. Their entire dynamic had been built on rebellion, on sneaking, on proving something to me. Once I was no longer watching, there was nothing left to perform. They fought publicly, loudly, at a bar where too many people knew too much. Someone filmed it. Someone always does. Lena accused him of choosing me over her even after the breakup. Daniel accused her of ruining his life. Security dragged them apart. That was the end of them. Lena's image cracked after that. The cool ex, the misunderstood friend, gone. People started asking questions she couldn't charm her way out of anymore. Daniel's reputation followed. Turns out, confidence doesn't look impressive when everyone knows it's hollow. As for me, my studio expanded. New trainers, new clients, new mornings where I woke up without dread sitting on my chest. I didn't heal loudly. I healed thoroughly. Then, a few weeks ago, I was on a date. Nothing dramatic, just dinner, easy conversation. Someone who listened instead of performing. Someone who didn't need an audience. Halfway through the meal, I felt it. That familiar sensation of being watched. I looked up. Daniel stood a few tables away, wearing an apron. For a second, we just stared at each other. His face drained of color, not anger, not sadness. Recognition. He turned sharply and said something to the manager, then disappeared through the back door like the building was on fire. My date noticed. You okay? He asked. I smiled. Yeah, I said, it's a long story. And it is. But it's over. The best revenge wasn't locking him out. It wasn't the punch. It wasn't watching his life unravel. It was refusing to stay on a stage that required me to be humiliated for someone else's applause. I walked away. They kept performing. And like most bad actors, they lost their audience.